Mr. Clerk, the time is 7:01. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the additional delegation? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Gartner. Require 2/3. Any comments, questions? Call vote. Councillor Weiss? Councillor Weiss says yes. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have 2 community presentations. First one is 5.1, Stephen Forsey, Director, Sport Aurora, regarding Sport Aurora and Community Programs 2024. Mr. Forsey, welcome. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Mayor Mrakas, members of council, town staff, and assembled guests. I am here tonight to take a few minutes to provide an overview of how Sport Aurora came together 19 years ago and what we continue to do for many of the town's citizens as it relates to sport. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the town of Aurora for the financial support that has been provided by way of the community partnership grants, which have been very helpful in funding a portion of 3 of our pillar programs. As a current Sport Aurora board member and someone that has been involved with this organization for most of its existence, I am a firm believer in promoting and celebrating our citizens when it comes to sport. Please remember that if there's any opportunities for us to collaborate with sport initiatives to create meaningful efficiencies, I think we're all the better for it. Sport Aurora began as the Community Sport Council in 2005 when a group of representatives of 7 community sport organizations came together to discuss challenges and opportunities facing predominantly youth sport in the town of Aurora. In 2007, the Community Sport Council developed a strategic plan that included a mission, visions, and belief statement and was incorporated as a non-share, not-for-profit corporation with its own constitution. Our first initiative in 2011 was the annual volunteer recognition event, and I will elaborate briefly on that in a few minutes. A year later, we began our annual Breakfast of Champions, which continues to be a tremendous success. Shortly thereafter, in 2013, we founded the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. And I understand that our representatives from the hall were here a few weeks ago to make their annual announcement of this year's inductees. Since that time, Sport Aurora has grown from the 7 original members to 42 sports organizations. Our membership is inclusive of all sport and represents an estimated volunteer group of approximately 2,500 and a player base that approaches 10,000 people from the ages of 3 to 80. I'd like to summarize a few of what we refer to as our pillar programs or core initiatives, and they are as follows. The All Sport One Day program. It's one of our newest ventures. Twice a year, we have a one-day multi-sport environment for kids between the ages of 6 and 18 to try out a new sport to see if they're interested and may pursue it. Secondly, the Sport Aurora All Kids Can Play program. We recognize that there are or could be significant costs to participate in a sport, and we don't want money to be an impediment to a healthy lifestyle. Financial resources are made available to those that apply in order that kids come off the sidelines and get into the game. Next is celebrating sport excellence. This is a celebration of the extraordinary accomplishments of local high school students, recognizing them for their individual performances and for their influence in encouraging others to be active participants in sport. The Breakfast of Champions, an annual multi-sport event that recognizes, celebrates, rewards, and publicizes the achievements of individuals or teams and their coaches and managers that have won provincial championships or better within their sport. And finally, the Volunteer Recognition event, and I think many of you know how I'm associated with that. At the very heart of every one of our sports organizations is a dedicated and committed parent or an individual giving selflessly of their knowledge, skill, expertise, and time so our programs can thrive. It goes without saying that without volunteers, there would be no sports organizations. At this event, held late fall of each year of the last 13 years, we celebrate and thank them for all that they do. In closing, I hope that my comments this evening have given you an overview of who we are and what, as community volunteers, we truly love to do. For those of you that have not yet attended one of our events, please join us, as it would be our pleasure to show you in person what Sport Aurora is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Reese, Councillor Gardner, comments, questions? Councillor Reese.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate you coming here tonight and representing Sport Aurora. You know that I'm involved in that organization, so it's good to see Sport Aurora back in the chamber and talking about the things that we're doing. And I want to thank you for the work that you've done on the board for many, many years. So thanks for coming tonight.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Forsey, thank you very much for coming this evening. Call a vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Council, next presentation is regarding the 2024 Citizen of the Year presentation. I know we did it at the we did it at the awards ceremony, but our Citizen of the Year wasn't there, and so we're going to honor him tonight and this evening at Council. So it's now my honor to be able to announce here at Council that Vernon Cunningham is the 2024 Citizen of the Year. Now, this award has been given out annually since 1970 to an Aurora resident who has made exceptional community building contributions. Importantly, like all our community recognition award winners, the Citizen of the Year exemplifies an individual's commitment, passion, and dedication to strengthening our community through their volunteerism. Because at the end of the day, volunteers are the heart of our community, helping create connections amongst residents, connecting people to the supports that they need, and creating a more caring and compassionate community. As I mentioned, unfortunately, Vern wasn't able to join us at the Community Recognition Award ceremony on May 27th, but we are fortunate to have him here with us this evening. Now, Vern has achieved a lot here in our community over the years as a businessman, but of course also as a volunteer. While running his very successful local business, Ultron, Vern helps support other small business owners through his work at the Chamber, serving as a board member in the early 2000s, chairing the Business Achievement Awards, and serving as an ambassador for the York Region Small Business Enterprise Center. And in his retirement, Vern doubled down on his commitment to strengthening our community, joining the Optimist Club and serving as president of the Probus Club for 2 years, where he still remains on the board. He has done other incredibly important volunteer work, including sitting on the board of the Bereaved Families of York Region and becoming a member of the Hope House Hospice Bereavement Team. Most recently, in 2022, Vern joined the board of the Aurora Seniors Association and began chairing the fundraising committee. And in his first year as chair, he helped to raise over $15,000. Vern is also the driving force behind the Aurora Whistling Society, which we all love, where in addition to being a place for whiskey lovers to socialize, the society has also raised funds to support important local organizations such as Chats. Vern is a compassionate, selfless community leader who has touched so many lives and whose work has made Aurora a stronger and better place. I feel honored to know Vern, and I'm so thankful for the work that he has done in our community. So everyone, please join me in congratulating Vern Cunningham, the town of Aurora's 2024 Citizen of the Year. Vern, I'm going to ask if you can just join me in the center here, and I'll represent you your award.
Think that the key for any volunteers in Aurora or anywhere else in the world is we don't do it for something as beautiful as this. We do it because of a passion for the community that we live in and the people that we know. And I've been a resident of Aurora now for over 35 years. I've seen it grow, and I've met a lot of residents. And be honest with you, I've made a lot of friends here, and I'm going to stay here till I'm not staying here anymore. So, thank you, one and all. It's wonderful award to get, and it's really the crowning part of my life. So thanks again. Good evening.
Vern, once again, well-deserved, and I can't think of a better person to represent our community over the next year as well, and continue on that legacy of Citizens of the Years that show up to our events and everything. So congratulations, well-deserved, and I'll see you at Canada Day Parade. You all don't have to leave. You guys can stay for the full meeting. Oh, you guys are going to have cake. That's what you guys are doing, eh? Council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Weiss. I'd ask if there's any comments or questions, but they all want cake. I'll call a vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. So next we'll move to delegations. We have 3 on the agenda. First up, 6.1, Tom Hashem, resident, regarding item 8.7.4. Tom, welcome. You got 5 minutes and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and nobody else, I guess, anymore. I've been a long-term resident of Aurora. I was born here 61 years ago. I was born in Toronto, but I've been here for 61 years, moved away, could hardly wait to leave to go to university. But when I got married and thought I'd have kids, thought might be a good time to come back. And I've been here, bought my mother's house on George Street, and I've been here for over 20 years. I went to George Street Public School. My two kids both briefly went to George Street Public School. They're both in Aurora High School now. And I live in George Street, so I have quite a, I guess, vested interest in the George Street Public School lands and the park area behind. I was very happy to hear that the town bought the property or both properties. So thank you very much, Mayor Tom and everybody else who's involved in deciding to make the acquisition. I hear that the lower area is to be turned into a park of various descriptions, pickleball court I've heard, and playground, which there are a lot of kids moving into that area of George and Tyler and Hawthorne and Hillview and the surrounding areas. A lot of new young families there. So there's no playground within quite a distance. So that's not a bad thing at all. I'd originally heard from the mayor after we had a chat that the upper area of George Street Public School was considered to be a possible senior center, of which apparently we don't have enough of. And I thought that was a very good idea, but I understand since that due to the expense of the property and due to the fact the school is not in excellent condition, which I thought it was, but apparently it's not, the cost of upgrading or turning into a seniors facility are going to be too much, and that it's going to be torn down. I also hear that the upper property will be sold off for homes, which is fine. I am here to make a suggestion regarding the gym. I don't know the exact area, but I have a pretty good idea. The gym was built significantly later than the original school. It, to my understanding, is in excellent condition. It's a good gym. There's a stage there. There's other areas enclosed within the gym, and apparently it's all in good shape. And since we have no gyms, I mean, maybe we have two in the whole of Aurora, two gyms owned by the Aurora. One that I know of at the leisure complex, but maybe there's another one somewhere. Maybe you can, only the one?
We're building a second one.
Oh, at the Sark.
Sark, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Still, there's nothing west of the railway tracks. There's no facilities at all west of the railway tracks outside of the Aurora Community Center and ACC2. Yes, there's a tiny auditorium above ACC1, but that's about it. So just a thought to divide and the northern area of the school demolished, sold off for residential homes. But the gym, is that my 5 minutes?
You have 1 more minute.
The gym itself could be turned into a public use gym. There is significant space in front of it because it's quite set back. It could be used. There's a gym, there's a stage that's in good shape. I feel it could be used for its purpose. You could add on washrooms and a very small entrance area. And in front of that, there's probably room for, I would say, 20 cars parallel parking. And that would be my suggestion for maybe a fifth of that total land area, and the rest to be sold off for homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, can I get a, oh, wait, there could be a question for you, just in case. Council, can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Reese, any questions for the delegate? Councillor Gardner.
Hi. Thank you for coming forward. It's wonderful to have residents' input. And my understanding through Mr. Mayor is that, or to Mr. Mayor or Mr. CEO, is that when we come to the public planning meeting, it would be at that point that we decide what is going to be happening with that property.
Councillor, I'll save that when we get to the report because you're asking staff. If you got a question for the delegate.
Okay, so we have your idea, and there hasn't been a definitive decision on what we're going to be doing with the land. There will be a public planning meeting. So we have your idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge receipt of the comments made. The George Street Public School. I know that I have sent out a survey asking questions about this property. So I just want you to know that I am listening loud and clear, and I really respect you coming here today and giving us your opinion and your thoughts, because it's important that we do make a decision that's right for the community. So thanks so much for coming forward.
Received a survey. I don't know if it's been passed out, issued to local residents.
So I had actually, if I may, just respond to that. I did send out a survey link through emails that I have on file and also on social media. It was not formally done through the town of Aurora, although the town of Aurora will send out a formal public engagement as well. This is just something that I had sent out. But if anybody wants to have this link, you could please email me at rgilliland@aurora.ca. So far, I've had over 100 responses within the immediate area, which I think is really important, but I'm happy to send that out. It's really just asking for feedback on kind of the things that you want to see. So this was very an informal approach that I've done, but definitely the town of Aurora will be doing more of a formal public consultation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. Thank you for delegating, Mr. Hashem. It's always good to hear from the public, especially sometimes we don't see the perspective that people who are in the area may see. Is the gym on the south end of the property? It's kind of an L shaped and it's at the end of the L. Is that where the gym is? For you, Mr.
Sash?
Well, there's a fairly small space, which you could actually probably put one home in to the immediate south of the gym, which was the playground for the kindergarten there. And then the gym itself, then there's roughly room, I would guess, for 50 foot to 55 foot deep, wide and 250 foot deep lots to the north side of the gym. So I think there'd still be room for, in terms of single homes, there'd be room for 6 or so, depending on the width of the lot. One to the south, 5 or maybe 6 to the north side of the gym.
So,
Councillor?
so just to identify where the gym is, it's on the kind of the southeast corner of the building.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none, Mr. Hashem, thank you very much for coming. I also want to point out that Councillor Gilliland had her survey go out to residents. I've talked to you and I've talked to a few other residents in the area as well, but Councillor Gilliland and myself also met with, and Councillor Gilliland can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if it was about 10 residents immediately within the vicinity of the school. We went out and met with them and we had a good conversation with them. So we're trying to engage with everyone too, to hear what everyone is thinking and their thoughts, because it's important to know exactly what everyone wants in the area and wants to see done with this. And as Councillor Gardner mentioned, we're still working and there's going to be lots of public consultation on both fronts. So.
Thing on the record, I guess, I personally, I just think that's a good idea because we don't have anything in the area at all. I'd be fine with single family residences. I think I'd be highly objecting to any more condo developments, as we have 2 at the bottom of George Street. We have a huge townhouse developing in Tyler, which abuts that lot. I think 78 townhomes on Tyler. And the traffic in that area is going to become atrocious very quickly. If there's single family residences and there's 6 or 7 or 8 of them, that's, I could personally accept that.
Okay.
But I like the gym idea.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Council, I'll call the vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Next, we have 6.2, David Hurd, resident, regarding 8.7.2. Mr. Hurd, welcome. I have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. George Street's public school, where I first spoke to a large crowd at 7 years old in a public speaking contest. My name is David Hurd. I'm a lifelong Aurora resident, my entire life, 1802 roots. Many of you know me. I'm a very strong heritage advocate, advocated for over a decade for the preservation of the Aurora Pet Cemetery. I've been doing historical tours for about the last 20 years in the downtown core area, raising awareness to its heritage value and the incredible stories. And 2010 to 14, and current member of the Heritage Advisory Committee. I'm here to speak in regards to the list of the 30 properties, but more so one property. The educational value and motivational value and healing power of a great story, I believe, fails without a backdrop or landscape, where whether it's your roots, like myself being a longtime Auroran, or people who are new to Aurora. I've been at the farmers market many years doing programming and volunteering and also partnering with the market. And I've, especially on Canada Day and such, when I've done programming, mentioned some of our history of the town. You can click to another slide. I've been approached by people from new residents to Aurora. Then when they found out about the Fleury plow being made in Aurora, manufactured in Aurora, they were shocked because they were telling me, oh, I've been in Aurora only 8 years, but we had one of those plows in our property. And it was when, in generations in our family. I've heard this from people in Europe, in Australia. Another person said to me in law enforcement when I recently did a historic tour that we have to tell our story, good or bad, to impress our youth. And that really stuck with me. The Fleury Foundry is an incredible story. Can you go to the next slide? It is a masterpiece of decades that has reached all over the globe, and it is worth designation. The interior of the West Building is a time capsule of painstaking construction of our distant past. The first phone in Aurora was in the Fleury Foundry. And I found this interesting because in the 1867 World's Fair, both Alexander Graham Bell and staff from the Fleury Foundry were showcasing revolutionary new product. Maybe that's how the phone connection came. The Fleury Foundry connects hugely to our town park, where in our earliest days after 1859, that's where the big community event happened, plowing matches. Usually won by a Fleury plow with people from all over Ontario and beyond. And usually the first prize was a Fleury plow worth about $21. As I said, those were the big community events. We've even branded our flag with a Fleury plow. The Aurora Museum did an impressive display on Joseph and his family and their epic company. I really believe, can you go to the next slide, please? I really believe that the biggest part of this, why this should be designated, in my journey of really looking into the history of Aurora, and by the way, this binder, these slides are from my archive. This binder is full of well over 100 original Fleury advertisements and catalogs dating back to the late 1800s and into the early 1900s. You can go to the next slide, please. I lost my train of thought for a second. The resiliency part of it, like I said, Joseph failed and struggled. But when I take people on walking tours to that location and tell them this story, I can see the light bulb go on in all ages. and many different cultures. I believe the preservation and to honor this property is, in a way, even honoring our First Nations, because it's one of our earliest crafts is the storytelling and the necessity of storytelling and passing these impressive stories down. We were taxed in the as Heritage Advisory Committee members to reassess 287 homes by the province. The homes were designated. I think what this has done is it's opened up a can of worms to open up opposition. And I think these properties should remain designated or be designated like the Fleury property. Our stories, I believe, are marketable. They're fantastic for tourism. And I think the Heritage Committee and members of the public are really doing a great job, and museum staff are doing a great job going down that rabbit hole and finding out beyond the brick, finding out about the people. But we need the backdrop to keep these stories and finish our story, which is tourism with heritage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Weiss, second by Councillor Kim. Any questions for the delegate? Councillor Weiss.
Yeah, David, thank you for coming and for your advocacy for heritage and buildings and stories. I know it's an important thing for you, and it's something that you've been doing your entire life. I particularly like the notion of Aurora celebrating their heritage and for the opportunity to bring people to this community because they want to celebrate that heritage with us. So I thank you for the work that you've done, and we're going to have more discussions about this over the next little while, because I too believe that the heritage that we have is an asset to our community. And it's not just buildings, but it's the people and the history. So thank you for tonight and for your advocacy.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Renner?
Thank you for coming and all the work you've done in the past. This is now the Bacon Basket property. And there's very interesting, Anna Losec-Romeo has done very interesting history and description of this online for anybody to check. The Bacon Basket, that property is not just this building. There's an interior courtyard and there's another building. So are you referring to the building that we can see from Wellington?
Mr. Hart?
The building that I'm most concerned with, and like, I don't want to sort of throw myself under the bus here. I'm a person that believes in heritage preservation. Also, a lot of times has to include sort of a hybrid model to be able to add to it, to make it work. The west building is the jewel, which is the one with the amazing floorboards and beams. It is the showcase. I believe the facades are really important. I mean, the architecture of the facades is something amazing along Wellington Street. There's a lot of new builds there. You know, there's a lot of extras that have been added that don't go back to the original Fleury foundry, but I'm mostly talking about, you know, keeping the look. I'd love to see the look preserved, but more so that west building. Maybe an incorporation. I think that whole property, there's something bigger here, much bigger here, that could really help revitalize our downtown and bring some density there, but preserve our heritage. Sort of a hybrid model.
Councillor?
Thank you. A follow-up through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is, you're talking about the whole property that's occupied by Bacon Basket at the moment.
Correct.
But in particular, the west property. Could you envision seeing this turned into residential?
Sure.
I've had this through you, Mr. Mayor. I've had this conversation with the planning department extensively. They know my view on it. I think that property has massive potential because of the sight lines. The Bacon Basket property or Fleury Foundry's already here. Young and Wellington is here. It's an opportunity. I'm very visual. The sight lines to be able to, you know, add some density. I see a distillery district type model here. I really do. And Yeah, it's, I think there is a huge opportunity here to add to the property, not just leave it. I think it's a big discussion with, you know, a lot of parties to make this happen.
Councillor?
So, thanks through you, Mr. Mayor. So really functional living heritage.
Start.
The way that I'll tell you straight out what I said to the planning department is I could see the facades protected. I could see residential above, preserving the lower, but also seeing possibly retail at the bottom facing south, turning that area almost into like a courtyard, encompassing the back part of the existing downtown and opening that up. It's like a distillery district concept.
Thank you. So for clarification through Mr. Mayor to the delegate. So we're talking about, we're not talking about a museum type thing. We're talking about functional heritage.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none, Mr. Hurd, thank you very much for coming this evening. Call a vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Next, we have Christopher Watts, the Aurora Heritage Authority regarding item 8.7.2. Mr. Watts, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
In a little bit earlier because it's a tough act to follow Mr. Hurd. So I'm here on the same item this evening, different property. We're going to go through 9 Wellington East. Just want to move the slide. One back. So 9 Wellington East has been a butcher shop for about 120 years. And that's important because if you can move to the next slide, about 100 years of that, it was actually a butcher shop by one family. So that's why it's known as the Knowles Butcher Shop. So it is actually started a little bit farther south on Yonge Street. And then this building itself was a purpose build for becoming a butcher shop. Which was a family affair. So it actually uses and incorporates Aurora brick from the father of William J. Knowles, and his son was actually a builder, so likely and was involved in the build. The butcher shop, although it's not the sole butcher shop in town, I believe there was more like 5 or 7 of them going on. It was very innovative in its day, and it had quite a breadth. So that got deliveries all the way down into Toronto. So it was a very prolific butcher shop. And William J. Knowles, like everyone around the table, very, very connected service member with, I believe, over 30 years on council without suffering electoral defeat. So that's pretty impressive. To this day, so it's 3-year anniversary to this day of the fire that happened at Knowles Butcher Shop. And we understand that it was a pretty catastrophic thing, and there seemed to be some kind of feeling that, oh, it wouldn't be saved, but it has been saved, and it has actually been respected. So here we've got it showcased and being painted in the town as a fixture, and unfortunately being painted in an also improper way. So this is kind of unfortunate because here you've got a heritage property that's being plaqued, suffering from graffiti. So I'd like to kind of talk to this property with a different layer of paint. And like we know in the downtown core, there is a ghost sign. There's a cool Coca-Cola sign that everybody's seen, but there is a ghost sign on this property, which has been hidden for years. And there's an opportunity to uncover and bring that back. So what I proposed to the Heritage Advisory Committee back in April was that an exploration be done that can then bring this the heritage relevance and the story and the majestic elements of this property back into the showcase and be something for the town to celebrate with inside its promenade, with inside its downtown core. And I've already gone through a process of exploring some local outfits that'll do this, and there was a low cost component to it. We had talked to the Heritage Advisory Committee about using the Heritage Fund for this purpose. Since that point, we now have already explored the possibility and bringing to fruition a Heritage Grant. But if that's going to be the case for moving this forward, if this wants to be actioned on, one of the criteria is that property has to be designated. So I thought. So I would like this evening for some serious thought to be given to an amendment to the motion that's basically sitting there, that this property effectively is added to the ones for designation, and that you see it as value because effectively heritage is not an inconvenience. It's effectively our inheritance, and we need to make sure that we are good stewards of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor made a motion to receive the delegation. Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Thompson. Any questions for the delegate? Councillor Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, do you have any idea about the physical state of the building?
Mr. Watts?
No, sorry, I'm not an engineer. There hasn't been anything come back that I'm aware of that talks to any of that.
Councillor?
Okay, just curious. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Weiss?
Yeah, and like I said to Mr. Hurd, I want to thank you for the work that you put into trying to preserve our heritage and our buildings and our storytelling and the rest of it. I lived 3 doors down from the Knolls, and I shopped in there. It was nice to see the pound of ground beef for 74 cents too. That gives us a little idea of how things have changed since 1994. But that's a story to tell, and it's very important to have those stories. So I want to thank you for coming in and advocating on behalf of this this property. Thanks, Chris.
Any others? Councillor Kim?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Watts, thank you very much for delegating. My question is, have you spoken to the owner of the building and whether he or she wishes to have his or her building designated?
Mr. Watts?
In the report that you have before you, staff has already outlined that owner did not wish this designated.
Okay.
So that's why I'm bringing it to your attention, because I'm hopeful that you will make the decision to designate regardless of the property owner's decision.
Okay.
Because the value, and it's already a plaqued building, and all of the reasons that I've suggested.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor? Mr. Watts, thank you for coming. Call the vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. So that carries. Council, we're going to move to consent agenda. I get a motion to receive the items on the consent agenda. Councillor Yellow, Councillor Thompson, any comments, questions on the consent agenda? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are we into the 8s?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank
All
you.
right. Any comments, questions? Councillor Weiss?
Is it time to bring forward the 7.7, the closed session here? I have a question about the minutes, that's all.
If you have a question or just a comment, then you can just do that now at this point, as long as if we're not,
No,
ahead.
it's just a
Yep.
very quick one.
Go ahead.
No, I read the minutes, and subsequent to a post that was put out about the evening and the vote in closed session. This has to do with the 65 St. John's. I've had a number of residents ask me about my absence because it was recorded in the minutes that I was absent, but I can tell you that I was not, and everybody at this table knows that I was not. But in talking to the clerk, I was told, of course, that the closed session minutes are different than the open session minutes, and I had to leave the meeting because of an injury that I had, and I didn't I wasn't able to come to the open session and make a vote, but I just wanted it known that I would have been in opposition to it. Should it be allowed here tonight? So I don't know whether the clerk would like to change that or would change it. And maybe it's not possible to change it, but I just wanted to publicly announce that I was not in favor.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions to consent agenda items? Call the vote. Councillor Gilliland? Oh, sorry, Councillor Gilliland, did you want to say something?
Thank you. I didn't know how to take the clapping hand off.
I just saw the clapping hand right now. I apologize.
That's okay. I heard what Councillor Weiss had said about, is there a way to have the clerk change that so he could go on the record? So I'm just wondering, would it be something that we could do to have a reconsideration to vote on the record to allow him to have that opportunity to vote? Would that be an appropriate thing to do now? Or I'm just curious. I just heard him ask that question, and through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Clerk, or Mr. Mayor, like, what do you suggest if that's something that he would like to have
That's something that we can discuss. Right now, we have the minutes in front of us. The minutes, unless there's something that is incorrect in the minutes are correct. So therefore, there's really not much we're going to change as far as the minutes. Any other discussion as far as what you're proposing would have to be done under new business, and we can have that discussion at that time.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. I might as well get your vote.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. That carries. Okay, Council, we're going to move to number 8. All number 8s. These are the Committee of the Whole meeting report of June 4th. Are there any items anyone wants pulled? Councillor Weiss.
I'd like to pull the 8.7.2.
8.7.2.
Yeah, that has to do with the heritage designation. 8.7.3, it's the affordable advisory action plan. I just have one question to make about that.
Is it a new question?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Hi, just 8.7.4.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
8.7.1, just for a comment. Thanks.
Is it a new comment?
Yes.
I'll be listening. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minute reports, June 4th, the remaining items excluding 8.7.1, 8.7.2, 8.7.3, 8.7.4. Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Gardner, thank you. Oh, Councillor Gilliland, were you seconding or did you want to say something?
I was just seconding, that's all.
So you know what? Actually, do me a favor, Councillor Gilliland. Honestly, I know the hand comes up on the thing, but put up your hand. I probably see it better if you just put up your hand than instead of that little hand that comes in the corner. It's a little bit tougher to see. So just throw up your hand and I'll make sure. I'll make note.
Okay.
Okay. No, it's okay. I already got you. Call the vote. And I'm back to you, Councillor Gilliland.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. So we'll move to 8.7.1. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one. Did you want to move it?
Mr. Mayor, I know that a lot of people don't
I just,
always watch our, yes, I'll move it.
thank
Sorry.
you. Seconder? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, notice we have a gentleman here from the Aurora. And just to any residents who are listening, this is a very interesting report, energy conservation and demand management. So I would like to recommend it to the public for a good read. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Call the vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Move to 8.7.2. Councillor Weiss, you pulled this one. Did you want to move the recommendation?
Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Councillor Weiss, go ahead.
Yeah, my comments here are really about probably the third bullet, that staff be authorized to publish and serve council's notice of intention to designate their respective properties council chooses to pursue for designation in accordance with the requirements of the Heritage Act. The question that I have has to do with the consequences that occur as a result of us not designating these homes that are on the list, because there's some confusion in the public about what will happen to the, in this case, 22 properties that the residents or the owners have chosen not to allow being designated. And is this final? Because I understand that those 20, in this case, these 22 are still on our list, and they may in fact be designated, or we still have an opportunity to designate them should we wish to do so sometime in the future. And I also would like to know what the time in the future that would be. So through you, probably to Mr. Ramuno or perhaps Mr. Robb, I don't know. I'll leave it to you to decide.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly if council has the discretion to recommend designating staff to proceed with issuing notice of intent to designate the other 22 properties. If council doesn't do that, they will remain on the list for until 2027 under new legislation. Having said that, it's within our council's authority to come back at a later date to direct staff to initiate the notice of intent to designate. So if it doesn't happen this evening, it can happen anytime before 2027. Quite frankly, even after 2027, there's always that opportunity to go to reconsider issuing a notice of intent to designate. But again, it's council's opportunity tonight as well to provide that direction if you so choose to do so.
Councillor.
Thank you. So what I heard there, if I can unpack that a bit, is that the 8 that have agreed that they will like to be designated, that's not a problem. But the other 22 in this batch, at least, are still on the list, and they still could be designated should we instruct you in one way or the other to go back to those residents and those buildings, talk to them again. But even if they choose not to be designated, we still have the authority to designate them. Is that correct? Through you,
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's the case, and that's true. And just to clarify, our manager Adam Robb, through council's previous direction, did reach out to all 30 properties. So the 8 support designation, the other 22 property owners have provided comments back to us stating that they don't support designation at this time.
and so lastly, if I might, since you've been talking to them, and I went out and talked to the residents who are being considered in my ward, and so I know how they feel about it, particularly the ones that were designated. Can you share with us the comments that are most obvious, I guess, most logical, that happen most often when they have an objection Is it finances? Is it real estate values? Is it cost of maintenance? It could be all of those as well. But I just want to get a feeling for the reasons why people do not want their homes designated, because I believe it's an asset to the community. So if you'd help me, I'd appreciate it through you, Mayor.
Mr. Rob?
General consensus is a fear over property values. In my professional opinion, sometimes that can be unfounded based on scholarly articles or evidence on hand, where property values actually sometimes do increase with heritage designation and the general charm that is heritage character areas. But overwhelmingly, that is the consensus: fear of impacts to property values and fear of restriction. Restriction on any alterations that a property owner may want to do to their property. And in regard to that, we do obviously have our heritage permit process that a designated property would have to go through in terms of alterations. But heritage designation is not about unduly restricting a property either. It's about ensuring sympathy and protection of heritage attributes, but there is still no restriction in terms of interior elements or even updating a property in a sympathetic manner.
Councillor?
So it sounds to me a little bit like a communications problem. There's a gap there that some believe that this is a problem for them financially about designating them. The real estate values plummet. There's a lot of cost and delays and approvals that have to be done. Is there, when you're talking to people, do you have this discussion with them, or is this a letter that isn't really as accurate as maybe it could be, or as sympathetic to their circumstance? Can you tell me a little bit about your what you've done in terms of connecting with people and trying to connect with them on the value of heritage designation?
Yeah, Rob, certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. So heritage, I have to admit, there is a stigma associated with heritage. This is not just an Aurora problem. This is a provincially wide or even nationally wide recognition. There is generally at face value a stigma associated with heritage, unfortunately being the case. When I did do the consultation with these owners, we did do letters, but I also door knocked on these property owners' properties, had phone calls with them, made myself available to really break that barrier, break that communication barrier, and lay out the facts. The facts are, as I just communicated here to council today, but I do have to recognize that there is a general stigma associated with heritage designation.
Councillor?
So I guess my question is there any way to mitigate that? That you know that you have best practices in other communities, or that you think you'd like to try in this community to try to encourage heritage designation by the residents?
Mr. Rob?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my recommendation would be that, again, we do have a culture of having quite a vast number of designated properties already. I think we are leading by example in terms of having designated properties, but also encouraging sympathetic alterations. I think that's something that we're already on a course that is a positive trajectory in terms of already addressing some of those comments and questions and concerns. And my recommendation would be even for, to pursue designation and let it be experienced, potentially firsthand, the fact that designation isn't meant to be that restrictive or isn't meant to be that much of a hindrance that, the perception may dictate otherwise.
Councillor?
Thanks, that's very helpful.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I see this as a phased approach. We tried this before and not so successful in terms of the communication to some of the residents, and we didn't get very good feedback. To me, I see this as a phased approach, that we're moving ahead with the ones that are sympathetic as a first stage, but that does not preclude we won't be moving ahead with others as we see fit. I'm glad to hear that time frame has been, I guess, officially now extended to 2027. My question is, if we do move forward with other properties, what recourse? Because we need to have a full picture of what we're doing, and even fully understand the recourse that a potential owner has if we were to move forward and they're not sympathetic to what we're doing. What process is in place for that owner? Sure, Mr.
To designate. That withdrawal, as Mr. Ramuno outlined, does then result in that property being removed. We're not at that stage yet. Right now, there's no legislative clock or legislative process initiated. This has just been proactive consultation on our own merits, on our own accord. regardless of whether council hears an objection, but then proceeds with passing a bylaw anyways, there is also appeal rights afforded to that property owner to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal on the merits of whether that property meets under OREG 906 and the criteria for designation. In my honest opinion, the properties before us do meet the criteria. So I don't know. Of course, the OLT's decision is the OLT's decision to make. But weighted against the criteria of OREG 906, these properties do meet that evaluative criteria.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful to know the full picture, even in terms of if we do move forward with other properties of owners that are not sympathetic, what would we potentially be looking at? Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report, as Mr. Rob did say, that there's a lot of misinformation about heritage properties, about designation, their value, and what they can do with their properties. And in this chamber, when we were thinking of designating the Old Tom Park area as a heritage district, there was really some blatant misinformation that was presented. And I think that, and widespread, and I think maybe some of that remains in the minds of the people that were spoken to, because of course you don't want to decrease your property value. And as Mr. Rob said, there's no evidence of that. So I would say that for the moment, we are at this point of designation, but that the education should continue. And we need to make sure that it's accurate, because it was a terrible, terrible battle for the Second Heritage District. And I would guess that many people who live in Councillor Weiss's ward will remember that with distaste and possibly still misinformation. So it says in the report, it has the date January 1st, 2025. The required delisting date of January 1st, 2025. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Rob, could he clarify?
Mr. Rob.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just a matter of 2 weeks ago, Bill 200 received royal assent at the provincial level, and that just extended that deadline to January 1st, 2027. So at the time of writing, it was 2025, but it literally just happened to be extended to 2027.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Rob. Adam, thanks for being here tonight. With respect to the two properties that the delegates raised, when you look back at the reports that we put together, we indicated that there's some major historical value. So what other initiatives besides, I guess, education and ongoing conversations could we look to try and get buy-in from those owners? Because the preference will always be to work with willing owners when it comes to properties of significance. So is there anything else that you, in your experience, are aware of that we could look to perhaps get them more engaged or more educated or more willing to work with us?
Mr. Rob.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we did touch on some elements of campaigning or just general information and knowledge sharing. I will give credit to what is currently being worked on as well as our Heritage Grant Program as a means of incentivizing that as well, but then also breaking down barriers and creating opportunities for dialogue into opportunities for sympathetic restorations, opportunities for incentivizing designation as well, and leveraging opportunities through grant opportunities through that manner. And I think there's no easy answer, admittedly, but I think it's something that we continue on a positive path forward. And the more we designate, the more we encourage these types of grant programs and opportunities. We'll continue to raise awareness and we'll continue to increase positive dialogue on the matter. I mean, it is a complex matter. It's not one that's isolated to the town of Aurora. It is a province-wide issue, but I think we are making positive strides.
Councillor.
Thank you. And through you to Mr. Rob again. Should council decide to take that phased approach whereby we start just working with those property owners that have indicated a willingness, can we continue to keep those two and specifically on the radar and continue that dialogue and then come back to council or to the Heritage Advisory Committee at some point with updates to see whether or not further action is warranted?
Mr. Rob?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the opportunity is here and now, to be fair. But yes, as Mr. Ramuno did indicate, we do have that window to 2027. So they are not being removed until 2027, and that window of opportunity is still there. But again, they are presented here today as well.
Because I do agree that the historical value is significant when it comes to the history of Aurora, and so I'd like to see us make every effort to try and get the property owners to work with us. But failing that, then I think council should make a decision.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Rob had at least one resident who was extremely upset about her property, although she didn't want it and had no heritage merit. Council possibly designating it. So what is missing from this perhaps is the background that heritage designation was discussed in 2023, I believe. And those homes that didn't want designation or didn't merit it were not designated and they are protected. Could you just speak to that to clarify?
Mr. Rob?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So there has been a sequence of events here, starting first and foremost with our Heritage Register review exercise in 2022. And then further to that, last year in 2023, we went through our quote unquote first batch of 30 properties. That resident was part of that first batch that was considered last year, did not get designated at that time. This is a new fresh batch, a round two, so to speak, that is being vetted through our Heritage Committee and being proposed for consideration to council here today. So it's been a multiple round of opportunities and reviews, starting from our Heritage Register review a couple of years ago.
Councillor?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Rob. So the first batch, as you describe it, the first 30, if they were not designated, they will not be designated. This is the next, or at least they're not at risk to be designated. So this is a new batch of 30 properties that went through the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none for a call to vote. No, quite frankly, I think in the town of Aurora, we have been leaders when it's come to protecting our heritage properties. 20, I believe it was, and Mr. Rumino, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when we designated the 15 properties move forward in the downtown core. We did so without the full cooperation of those property owners because we saw the value in those properties and we knew what the meaning was to our residents, to the downtown core. But I do believe that we should be working with those property owners to try to get that buy-in. If we do have some time, let's get that buy-in. But at the end of the day, especially these two properties that were presented to us have extreme value from a historic perspective to the town of Aurora. And I think that ultimately it's our job as council to ensure that we continue to protect and preserve our heritage in our community. And so while we need to work with them, there will come a moment in time where this council is going to have to make that decision one way or another. And I will let everyone know that I choose to protect our heritage. I'll call the vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. So we'll move to 8.7.3. Councillor Weiss, you pulled this one. Did you want to move it? Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Councillor Weiss, go ahead.
This shouldn't take too long because I know we've gone through the Affordable Housing Action Plan and I know there's more work to be done and on it. I just went through it again and I saw that in the executive summary, the third bullet point, the draft Affordable Housing Action Plan will be consulted upon with the public and other stakeholders to create a finalized version to brought before council's endorsement. So my only question on that is, do you have a list of those stakeholders? Do you have a list of people who you value? Because I know there's a lot of people who are very interested and knowledgeable, have skills and expertise in affordable housing. And so my question to you is, do you have a list of those coming forward? Can you share those? Or are you opening it up to various groups and people who are interested in contributing to this action plan through you, Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno? Mr.
Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, Council Weiss. Yes, we're going to start this summer. I mean, we're going to start first with our regional community housing services. We'll start with them, our accessibility committee, and then there will be full public engagement as well. And as we move forward, I mean, we'll certainly include as many housing, groups and providers, bring them in as part of our stakeholders group. So yes, we haven't begun, but we will start our public engagement this summer, starting with regional housing and other groups. And come September, after the summer break, we'll hold open houses community-wide, open it up to all residents to seek feedback. And we'll do full public consultation with all groups prior to coming back to council for final consideration on the final draft and any suggested changes that comes to that consultation.
Councillor.
Sounds like a great plan. Thank you. No more.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I guess a little follow-up question to that is what the timeline is for that through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno. Looking at this plan, although has a lot of action items, I like to say actions speak louder than words. And while I see this as a great plan, what we're actually going to do and moving forward with that timeline is really key. So through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno, what does that timeline look like?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll spend the early fall dealing with public consultation. So depending on how things go, we may be back in front of council with a second draft before the end of 2024.
Councillor.
Okay, that's good news. Because for me, I would like to see this affordability plan reducing red tape, cutting red tape, and actually speeding up and streamlining the process. Because we could just talk about this as for forever and never really get anything done. And I'm looking at some of the action items, which do sound great, but I do have a question about action item number 13. And I'm really having a hard time understanding how undertaking streetscape improvements for the Aurora Promenade has anything to do with affordable housing. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around where this came from. Through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno, maybe you want to answer this. I just look at that action item and I just feel like it's just not appropriate here.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we thought it was important to include that because the streetscape detailed design project has been on the books for a number of years, and we're going to bring that forward to council soon. The whole purpose why that is an action item is it's really seen as a significant revitalization component to that stretch of the historic downtown core, Yonge Street, both sides of Yonge Street from Wellington down to Church. So with that streetscape improvement, we think that'll enhance that stretch of downtown, which may encourage some of those private owners to move forward with redevelopment opportunities to generate more housing. There's also some infrastructure work that needs to be undertaken as part of that project that'll support future redevelopment within that section of town.
Councillor.
Thank you. Okay, I understand the intent. I just feel that as far as affordable housing, that it probably just deserves a different space and other than in this plan. I think we all agree we want to see downtown revitalization and beautification. I just feel it's not appropriate here. As far as, timeline, you know, I do see that there are some things on here that perhaps maybe we've already worked towards and done. It would be nice to have seen some sort of matrix to kind of give us some sort of goal to work towards. And I don't see that here. I just see kind of a lot of things that we could do, but these things could take years. And you know, I do believe that we're in a situation where we want to speed things up and understanding what can council do now, as opposed to waiting for, you know, next year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. Is there anything here that you've identified through this action plan that's being presented to us that you could confidently say that council could move forward with in 2024 in a way that would help advance the housing affordability issue?
Mr. Romano?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've identified timeframes on some of these sort of action items and, you know, the 6 key objectives. I mean, we have identified a couple of the action items already in within our 2024 and 2025 budget with respect to some capital project works. And the one that comes to mind is the updating of the zoning bylaw, pre-zoning the MTSA area. And I think we received a council direction motion in the past. So that will be, that's one item that will be seen as streamlining the, you know, housing approvals process by pre-zoning sections of our intensification area of town. So there are a number of items in here that we could put into the short-term tranche of, you know, implementation mechanisms.
Councillor?
Thank you. So I guess I will leave it with a comment that coming back to council, I would like to see some sort of timeline as far as you know, medium, high, low, or immediate in the short term, long term, kind of give us an idea of what we can actually accomplish. I see a lot of different action items, but again, it's just all words. It's what you actually do. And so, you know, I guess my only comment, and I'll leave everybody with this, is I guess we'll see what happens around the council table and actually how we vote forward with projects that come forward, because we have had projects come forward that do emulate some of these action items, but yet we still have held up these developments. And I think that people and the public need to pay attention to how council does vote on projects that are good for the community when it actually aligns with this. And so I look forward to utilizing this action plan when we are talking about public planning meetings. And if we are going to adopt this in principle, that this is something that we should look to. So that is, I'm going to leave that comment for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And York Region is in the process of developing an affordable private market housing plan, because, I mean, that is really what's needed. And I'm hoping, Mr. Mayor, that you'll keep us informed on any progress, because what they will learn will also benefit us.
Absolutely. Councillor, I'll make sure I keep you informed once everything is finalized. But we are in a bit of a weird position at the region as of July 1st. If everyone doesn't know, they will be the elimination of planning at the region. Everything comes down to the local level. So
Right.
There's still things that we're working out, but obviously they will finish up certain things that they've been working on. So I'll keep you all abreast of whatever transpires and what comes out of those and
Thank you.
reports.
And I got this information from the, I believe it was on the agenda at the last council meeting.
Yep.
So I don't know, they seem to be moving forward with this.
They continue to have community housing under their portfolio. Yes.
Yes. So,
I will keep
but
you.
but affordable market housing is different.
Well, and
But-
Councillor, and no, sorry to interrupt, but yes, community housing at the region. So when you see some of the projects that the region does own,
Yeah.
they also it's a mixture of market rates and below market rates. So there's a mixture in there, and so that's why they talk about market rate being in there as well and fair market value.
Thank you. And I'm glad they do that. But I'm also glad that they're looking at private market housing,
Mhm.
because that's what we need to encourage. We need somehow to encourage developers to be interested in this.
Mhm.
And we all know that the profit would be less with this kind of an initiative. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. 8.7.4, Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one. Did you want to move it?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. Seeing how I wasn't here last committee of the whole, I just wanted to make a comment about the report that was presented to us and just clarify that through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno, with the renderings that were given as an example to council, it was simply just an example that could evidently become of those properties. It was not something that was set in stone. Could you confirm that?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. It's really just conceptually to show if you were to implement the similar R3 zoning, 50-foot minimum lots, what the what it would look like with respect to the number of lots that you could create from that frontage.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramuno, and that we will have a fulsome overview of the property and the choices that are presented to us and a full public consultation on the property and what we can do. Could you just verify how that would work for the public?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if council adopts the report before you this evening, our next step with respect to the rezoning of that George Street frontage, we will then come this fall schedule a public consultation, a community information meeting, and then a statutory public planning meeting in council chambers to consider the rezoning of the frontage and what that would look like. And we would seek input from the public with respect to number of lots, size of lots, etc.
Councillor?
Great, thank you very much. I just wanted to ask just for clarity, because I did meet with several residents asking some questions because they were rather quite confused the way this report was presented with the renderings that were presented to us. And they felt that that was set in stone with the 7 properties. Myself and also the mayor, we had met with at least 10 or 12 people who had concerns. And I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that there is a separate process there. And also that I just wanted to let everybody know that I did reach out to the people within my newsletter as well as on social media, that I did have a survey that went out and I had over 100 respondents within the immediate area, which was great, which I did pass on to staff and they welcomed that with open arms. So it was very well received. And anybody that wants to fill that in, I'm more happy to provide that. Although I know town will be doing a formalized outreach to you as well, but it was really nice to get at least a preliminary inside look with what the immediate surrounding area was looking for. So I just wanted to let everybody know that your engagement is very important, and obviously council wanted to ensure that within this property of why we acquired it is so we could have some developmental control of what happened there for what's best for the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss?
I agree with Councillor Gilliland. I've talked to her and I've talked to a few of the residents in the area about the value of keeping the form and function of the types of housing in the area, and I agree with them completely. So I'm looking forward to participating in the rezoning. And again, the issue around the placeholder was whether it was 7, whether it was 5, what it looked like. And so that will all be resolved to the satisfaction of the residents, I understand. So I want to thank Councillor Gilliland for the time and for those residents who got in touch with me about the use and the rezoning of the placeholder. Thank you. That's it.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. We did have a delegate this evening speaking to the merits of maintaining the gym. I don't know, have we ever explored that through you, Mayor? I'm not sure who would take this question, but was that ever an option? Did we ever look at that as a possibility?
Ms. Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did consider it as one of the conceptual plans when originally the whole property would be a park. So top and bottom before the consideration of potentially some residential. We would be able to, as the resident indicated, the gym is fairly new in comparison to the rest of the building. So it is feasible for us to potentially demolish the building and leave the gym in place. But there would be some engineering reports and evaluations necessary to do that. It would also, we just today had a look at it to kind of see what, if we did retain it, what sort of footprint it may need and consideration of parking if it was being used as a permitted facility. And we feel it would certainly take up a couple of lots, maybe even 3 lots to accommodate that.
Councillor.
Okay. I mean, if I don't believe we've had really a lot of time to analyze and explore that, and unfortunately, if the motion before us moves forward, one of the points is to demolish the building. If this gets approved tonight, then that's off the table. I don't know if I'm interested in delaying this process because, you know, I'd like it to move forward as quickly as it can. I'm sympathetic to the idea, and I think it's a good idea. I just don't think we've had enough time to explore it. And the only way we can is to not move what's before us and push pause and change course a little bit, unless there's any suggestions from staff that we can delay the demolition, move forward with some of the other stuff, public planning and all that, but delay the demolition. I don't know if that's an option.
Ms. Steenkamp?
We haven't had any, or through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't had any discussion about delaying it, but I guess there is the potential to delay the demolition in the interim.
Councillor.
I'll leave it to my colleagues. That's kind of where I sit.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, it does state in the report that with regards to communications, we'll certainly make all efforts to inform the public. We'll seek out through several channels, engage Aurora, signage on the property, public open house, et cetera. But I'll assume we'll also have the statutory responsibilities with regards to the public planning, sending out notice to the residents in the area and so forth as well.
Mr. Romero.
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we'll follow our standard public planning engagement process.
Thank you.
Councillor. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is what I was trying to get at before when I was speaking with you and the clerk and Mr. CAO. It says in the first bullet to demolish the building and prepare the site for development. And yet we haven't gone to the public planning meeting to actually decide what we're going to do with the site. So I would like to delay the demolishing of the building. And I don't see any hurry because we have to wait till the public planning meeting anyway, and then to council to make the decision, or sorry, to committee of the whole to make the decision. So I don't see the hurry here. And do we have to follow the process that developers follow before a public planning meeting application where we consult, where we have basically an open house and consult with the community?
Mr. Romero, we have a community information session.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's been our practice when we're dealing with private development applications. Since we're the owners and it's our process, we could vary that process if you want. But that was my intention if council directs us to move forward, is to hold a community information meeting, as has been our practice, and then we would then follow that up with a statutory public planning process. I just want to clarify. I mean, you know, we've got a number of recommendations here. If council decides to perhaps put a pause on the demolition and have staff investigate the feasibility of retaining a portion of the school being the gym, not sure if we should actually move forward with the rezoning, because I think the way we've broken up the report is the discussions we've had in the past was proceed with demolition of the school. And Ms. Steenkamp will work on the future design of the facility fit on the eastern portion of the land, and the George Street frontage would follow our public planning process to determine the zoning and the number of lots and size of lots and the housing type align that frontage.
Councillor?
I thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to think this through. All of these, everything here is predicated on us changing the zoning and using this for development, and the front part for development. And maybe we will, and maybe that's the wisest decision. But I don't think that we should. We're putting the cart before the horse, and we haven't done our full consultation with the public. So I would like to move the first bullet points. Well, obviously the first, the second, and the fourth. Although it says consultation process for the design of the park, I just think the public consultation process, I'm very concerned about the way this is stated. I do not believe we have gone out to the public and gotten enough input from them, because this is a very important decision for that neighborhood and for the town.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, first time.
Thank you. When this property was brought to the surface and brought to council's attention, the staff recommendation was to purpose this land based on the Parks and Rec master plan for the need for increased parkland in this specific area of the town. Majority of the conversation was about parkland, and we already discussed that it does have budgetary consequences. It's already been talked about. In summary, the reason why I brought this up, because I've already seen this on various communications and emails. But if based on what I'm hearing or not hearing here, is that there are obviously budgetary consequences with a change of plans. I don't get the feeling from council colleagues that there's an appetite for a greater budget pressures from doing this, but there's no rush. I fully believe in public consultation in terms of what the local residents want and the broader community needs. So I'm not in any rush to demolish the building now, to have a greater conversation and dialogue. But I just wanted to just remind council in terms of the conditions and our rationale for the purchase of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. I know that we had a closed session about this, so I'd be very mindful of the things that we chat about. However, for me, I was under the impression that what was being presented today is because we felt through recommendation from staff that the best course of action going forward was to go through with this demolition, and to put a delay on this would be counterintuitive of the conversations I felt that we had within that meeting to come to this conclusion. So having said that, learning the recommendations from staff and the state of the the school facility and the opportunity that we have before us. I personally have no interest in delaying this further and would like to move this forward. I know the residents that I've spoken to within the immediate area and beyond want to see this moving forward and not be delayed any further as well. I could also speak to the fact that there has been several attempts at kids wanting to linger and be around that property and maybe do some vicarious things. And it just opens the door as well for other vicarious behavior. And I feel that I'm very confident in the decision we have before us today and moving forward, and it leaves us in a good path for opportunity. So I'm confident with what staff has recommended before us. I'll be voting in favor. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'll also be voting in favor of what's in front of us. I've talked to many of the residents in the area, some with Councillor Gilliland, some of my own. And, you know, with, as was mentioned, with the condition of the building, I know that the gym is a little bit newer. But you know, reconstruction or saving pieces, if anyone knows anything about construction, when you try to save a piece and reconstruct it and remove other parts, the costs start to build on those things. So I think that the demolition needs to happen sooner rather than later. And ultimately, just because we demolish it, it doesn't mean that we're going to be building residential lots. We're still going to have to go through the public process. If we decide not to, you can put something else there. As a council, we can decide that. And the building would have to be removed to do that as well. So to me, the building needs to be removed no matter what we do, whether we decided it to be extra parkland, whether we decided it to be residential, whether we decided to build another community center there. That building needs to be removed. And so to me, hearing what staff have put forward, knowing the conversations we've had, I believe this is the most appropriate way to move forward. And from hearing from the residents in Ward 2, I believe this is the most appropriate course of action. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not comfortable with this motion, and I would ask that you call the 5 bullet points separately.
Do you want all 5 separate?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I start with number 1? We'll do in order. All right. Number 1, to receive. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Number 2. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Number 3.
If I may request that the screen is enlarged for voting for the public online, please.
It's Councillor, unfortunately, I think it's as large as it can be.
Okay.
Yeah, and are you speaking for yourself or for the public?
For the public on YouTube, it just has my view as clerk, and
I think your view is slightly different from what the public sees, so I think it's slightly bigger for the public.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody could see. Thanks.
Okay. And the clerk advises me if you turn off your camera, you'll see a larger picture of the vote. On YouTube, sorry. So Councillor Gilliland, number 3.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. I move to number 4. Councillor Gilliland,
Yes.
thank you. That carries. And number 5. Councillor Gilliland,
Yes.
thank you. That carries. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, we will move to items in number 9, 9.1. This is member motion. Councillor Gilliland, I think you were going to do something under approval of the agenda, but if you can do that now.
Thank
So
you.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. I had connectivity issues. At this time, I wanted to withdraw my motion, and I have reasons why. Essentially, this is a motion that I know that I had in the back of my mind during the draft OP about a year ago and had some conversations. And by the time I put pen to paper, I was not able to because there were some other properties that were within the OLT, and the legal had suggested that I hold off. Needless to say, this is something I've been holding off for at least 6 months. And as it turns out, it's been brought to my attention from staff that we already haven't, there's 2 properties of interest left where this would affect. And so essentially one of the properties already has an application in and is doing some revisions already. So that leaves just 1 property now, which evidently happens to be for sale. So because of those reasons, I feel it's moot going ahead with this motion at this time. Perhaps I should have done this about a year ago. And unfortunately, I did not. And then I had some delays that were a little out of my control. So I just feel this time that it's probably best if I just withdraw that. And we'll move forward with what we've got. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to voting at the council table and wanting to move things forward, that is when we will make those decisions. So I would like to be able to withdraw this motion at this time.
Thank you. So noted, and it has been withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council 9.2, this is required bill 185 amendments to the development charges study and bylaw. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Weiss, comments or questions on this item? Seeing none. Call a vote. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. New business. Councillor Kim? Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gardner?
Mayor. Thank you. The Canada Day long weekend is coming up. There have been concerns about firework displays. If anybody would like to lodge a complaint in real time, they can do it by calling our after hours call center at 905-727-3123. And I'd like that to go out on social media. It is pretty late, but if they have a complaint, they should take photos and videos, and that would be evidence. And those can be emailed to the B department at aurora.ca. I would like to sincerely, and I don't really know how I can substantially thank enough Wendy Kenyon and George Skalikas for their really years of work to protect the Henderson Forest. And they were just amazing, and they were successful. As we know, the town has purchased that land. So I think they should deserve a medal, Mr. Mayor, for all of the 3 hours of work that they put into it. And also Canada Day is coming up, and I would just like to say, as I've said before, that this can be a very traumatic time for our First Nations people. So it is a different kind of celebration for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weiss, new business?
I've heard the information that Councillor Gartner has had, and also thank Alex Ray for telling us the bylaw supervision enforcement that's going to be around on July 1st. So it was very important for him to tell us what he's doing, and I want to thank him for a job well done. But from a new business standpoint, I'm just wondering if through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, I'm wondering about a progress report regarding the suitable location for the York housing application on the men's shelter. Can you tell us how far down the road we are with that, and if and when we're going to find something coming back to us? Not if, but when. For you to Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing definitively to report back on, just that we've had a couple meetings, and will continue to meet regularly to discuss options.
When you say meeting, you're meeting with York Housing?
York Region Housing staff, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's great. The other new business item that I'm going to ask, probably through you to Mrs. Teenkamp, I've had a number of questions from residents actually on Aurora Heights about the school there, and both the safety, but also it's extended into the safety of playgrounds. And I know that's a York Region District School Board jurisdiction to do that, but in the absence of children having playgrounds that are useful for them, and I know we have a very good playground updating program, they've been asking about how the town can help, and I know that we don't want to get into that type of jurisdiction squabble with them, but I'm wondering if I can speak to Mrs. Teenkamp about something similar to what we've done with our school boards, where we've gone to ask them for land for turf fields, so we have joint use opportunities. I'm just concerned that their young children are not getting the activity that they need on a safe playground all day long during the school year. So through you, Mayor, to Ms. Teenkamp, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to get some of your time to talk about some of the possibilities of working with the school board in a cooperative way so that we have children that have excellent opportunities for meaningful play. So,
Ms.
through
Tinkham?
you to Ms. Tinkham.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly we can sit down and have a discussion.
Thank you. That's all I want to get started. Thank you. That's it.
Councillor Gilliland, new business?
Thank you. I think Councillor Weiss just asked the same question because I was going to ask a follow-up on the motion about the transitional housing. So I guess just maybe a follow-up question to that answer. I believe you said that there was a couple meetings that was discussed, but there really hasn't been any result. Within the last time you spoke with the region, then was there some sort of timeline at all that you were going to reconvene with some actionable items or ideas? I'm just trying to get an idea. I do have people who have been asking, and I'm really not sure what that status is.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I've met twice with regional housing staff. So again, I don't have any, real information to provide council at this point, especially with respect to any alternative sites. I think we do have another meeting coming up, I believe, next month. So I think I may have, I'll be able to provide another status update for council probably in September.
Councillor?
Oh, sorry, thank you. Okay, so in September you can update us, or are you able to update us at the council meeting in July? Because I believe it was like the beginning of July that your meeting that you're scheduled to have.
Mr. Romano?
Do you, Mr. Mayor? No, I don't think I'll have anything new to share with council next week.
Councillor?
Or early July, rather.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Other question I had to you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Desario, I believe. And sorry I didn't give you a heads up, but I just wanted to follow up or circle up on, within respect to George Street Public School, there was some concerns of young kids, teens, or so forth that were trespassing on the property. And I just wanted to know if that has been resolved, and if there's any course of action that you would recommend the public do to reporting the situation moving forward, because obviously we want to ensure that it's secure and it's safe.
Ms. Desario?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm aware of an incident last week that has been resolved. Because it's a trespass, it actually involves YRP. So we have been encouraging residents and councillors to contact YRP if they see any action, especially if it's break and entering, because it's not really a bylaw matter, it's more of a YRP matter.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do think it's good that the residents do reach out to us and councillors as well. Obviously, I think on top of that, reporting to YRP is key, but I think it's also equally important that we're aware of the situation, that we do understand that it's going on. So it's more of a collaborative. So I'm thankful to those residents who have reached out, and I'm also thankful for the response bylaw has. And as in respect to YRP, I know there's reported crime, but there's also an area where you can report suspicious activity, which I think that would encompass, because in order to report a crime, you need to know that a crime was actually committed and you have evidence. But there is an actual section on the YRP website to report suspicious activity. And the more reports that we have, obviously will trigger a trend. And it's just an important way for the community to understand that, not to skip that step. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you. Bylaws. Someone like to move the bylaws? Oh, Councillor Galvin?
Just had a question on the first one, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, on the bylaws. So, okay.
11.1, yeah.
Okay, so you had a question on it?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
It's basically the purchase of some lands on the north parking lot of Town Square. I see lot 4 there, part 2, part 3, and part 4. I referenced the plan that we had. There's a part 1 that we're also selling. I don't know if Mr. Ramuno will be able to pull that up, and just a question of why,
Mr.
or
Sarah,
somebody.
do you know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to look into it further, but I don't recall that we were selling all the parts. And I believe part one is that closest to the road. That one we weren't transferring.
Okay,
That includes a retaining wall, so we were keeping that one.
okay,
that
so
part.
it's through you, it's only part 2, 3, and 4 that we are selling.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is.
Okay,
Councillor,
that's it.
someone want to move the bylaws? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo, thank you. Call vote. Councillor Gilliland,
Yes.
thank you. That carries. And can I get a motion for the confirming bylaw? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.